Hey you guys, it's Pride the Arrogant here. For this week's deck profile video, I decided I'd do a personal favorite of mine. I got a lot of responses of what I should do. I got things like dragons, obviously. I got a lot of people saying that. I got some Naturia people. I might do that later. I haven't even tried those. But anyway, I picked a favorite this time, and I decided upon Burn. I got a few people just telling me, do whatever you want to do. So I was going to say this for later, but I'm happy with doing it now because I think now is a good time with this, the ban list with all the different things. So yeah, Burn is the idea that you use effect damage and you use direct damage rather than doing a battle damage. The whole idea of a burn deck is that you don't have to attack with normally a beatdown deck or something like that. That you'll use a monster's effect or a trap card's effect to remove your opponent's life points rather than a monster attacking. Burn is one of the main 7 deck archetypes. It also correlates with another one called Stall. The two really go hand in hand. To utilize one, you really need to use the other. You want to, when you're using Burn, you'll have a problem of your opponent attacking your monsters that normally have the effects of dealing damage, and you really don't want them being destroyed. So the whole idea being that you need to stall your opponent by using continuous traps and spells to make sure that they don't attack or destroy other cards on the field. There's really 3 main types of Burn. I'm just going to go through them real quick. The 3 main types that I use, personally, I use Continuous Burn, which deals with different cards such as Chain Energy, the Dark Room of Nightmare, continuous traps and spells, such, that really stay on the field permanently, and other cards like Solar Flare Dragon, that as long as they stay on the field, your opponent will lose damage. This is also Stall Burn, I guess you could call it. There's Gravity Bind, Messenger of Peace. So yeah, that's Continuous Burn. Another type I use is Samochi Burn. This is probably the most cheap one. I've heard a lot of negative comments about this one. The whole idea being you use monsters that normally give your opponent life points, but in exchange, thanks to this continuous trap card, Bad Reaction Samochi, it's flipped around so they'll lose damage instead. So cards like this Reign of Mercy increase the life points of both players by 1,000 points. You would gain 1,000 while your opponent would immediately lose 1,000. Other cards like this Dark Cure card, whenever an opponent summons a monster, they gain life points equal to half the attack of one of the monsters your opponent summoned. So if you summon a 2,000 attack point monster, then immediately your opponent will be dealt 1,000 points of damage. Now the final main, basically, Burn is probably the most competitive. I see it everywhere on DN that people use Burn decks, and it's called Chain Burn. You essentially, as the name implies, chain other cards to deal damage. So you activate this One Day of Peace, and you chain, let's say, this Jar of Greed, this Reckless Greed, this Secret Barrel, and normally a trap or spell card that will deal damage if it's a higher in the chain link, such as this Chain Detonation. Inflict 500 points to your opponent if this card is activated as chain link 2 or 3. Add this card to your deck and shuffle it. If this card is activated as chain link 4 or higher, return this card to their hand. So basically, the main one really is this Chain Strike card, and activate only as chain link 2 or higher. Inflict 400 damage to your opponent times the chain link number of this card. You cannot activate this card in multiple card's effects with the same name are in the chain. So that may sound confusing, however, the higher the chain number, the more damage being dealt. So for instance, if I summon Battle Fader, that will be chain 1. If I activate chaining to the summon, I chain Jar of Greed, that would be chain 2. Then, if I choose to do so, I can chain another card as long as it's allowed. So I play a Chain Strike, and if it says it's chain link 2 or higher, since it is a chain link 3, I inflict 400 points of damage to my opponent to the number of chains activated. Since 3 have been activated, 3 times 400 is 1200 points. So then my opponent will be dealt that amount of damage. However, it also says that cards with the same name, they won't happen. So for instance, if I were to activate 3 Poison of the Old Men, it wouldn't count. It would only count as 2. 1 for a Poison of the Old Man, and 1 for a Chain Strike. Here are just some more kind of mini archetypes for Burn. There's kind of Fire attribute and Pyro type ordeal. You have Volcanic, which I actually use this one. I use Volcanic Slicer in it, and it's basically a it's basically just another Solar Flare Dragon, except its effect isn't mandatory. I don't know why you wouldn't want to use it. I guess its attack points are a bit higher, but that's basically it. But it's an interesting archetype. I don't know if I have a deck on here at all, but I might make it if I don't later. There's some Mochi Burn, like I said, with the opposite gaining of life points. There's Direct Burn, which is basically just monsters attacking directly. Zombie Burn, I've seen this. I actually built a deck. My Chaos Zombies has it with this ever-living Underworld Cannon. And whenever a zombie-type monster is special summoned to your side of the field, inflict 800 damage to your opponent. Now with the field spell Zombie World, any non-zombie type monster will be turned into a zombie type. So you can keep special summoning monsters onto your side of the field and inflicting damage to your opponent. You have Dark Snake Syndrome. I used to run this card as a child. It's a continuous spell card that basically doubles. Its effect is that during each of your standby phases, inflict damage to both players. To inflict 200 damage to your opponent and yourself during each of your standby phases, except that damage will double each turn. So this turn it starts off as 200, then your next standby phase it'll go 400, then your next standby phase it'll be 800, and then the next will be 1600 until basically it's 3200, and by then you're both gonna lose. So the whole idea with this is that somehow somehow you have to keep enough life points, so some other ones we have here are some more Chain Burn. Basically, like I said, Chain Burn is probably your best option if you want to try it out. It goes really quickly, and it's probably how most people, I'd say, would get their higher points on the end. Then you have like reactors. I wouldn't really suggest this as a whole deck theme, but you have Spell Reactor, Summon Reactor, and Trap Reactor. The whole idea being that you have this monster on the field, and that once per turn when your opponent activates a spell card, destroy the spell card, and then inflict 800 points of damage. This also goes along with Trap Reactor, except with trap cards. So you destroy a trap card and inflict 800 damage. And then you have Summon Reactor, which is with the summoning. So you basically have these 3 cards, and I believe there's also one Skyfire or something like that. Yeah, Flying Fortress Skyfire. Let's see, when this card is normal summon or special summon. Oh, when your opponent normal summon or special summons, destroy it and inflict 800 damage. When your opponent sets a card, destroy it and inflict 800 damage. So, there's that. Basically, it's just, I almost want to say all of them combined. This card cannot be special summoned except by the effect of Summon Reactor. Once per turn, you can send 1 card from your hand to the graveyard to destroy 1 card your opponent controls. Once during each of your opponent's turn. Oh, and like I said, and that's when you do the either when they normal summon or when they set. So it's okay, but I really wouldn't make an entire deck theme after it. Then you have Darkstall, nothing really there. It has Earthbound Immortals in it. I made it. It's nothing that major. It's kind of fun. It has the Earthbound Immortal Chahula. I think that's how you pronounce it. But it's basically, its effect is, once per turn during, you can inflicts half of this card's defense to your opponent directly. Since that has 2,400 defense during each of your turns, you can inflict 1,200 points of damage to your opponent. So I just run that. It's fun. I just play Mausoleum of the Emperor and the Seal of Orichalca. Some other ones are Herald Cannon and kind of Fairy type. It basically just goes along with Fairy Archer. I made this deck a little while ago. Its Fairy Archer's effect is once per turn during your main phase, inflict 400 damage to your opponent for each light attribute monster on your side of the field. So if you have Marshmallow in this, I suppose it'd be a good combo. But you'd also have to stall with it with like Messenger of Peace or something. Bobbleman Burn. I tried this about a week ago. As you may know, I kind of hate heroes, but I built this deck, and the whole idea being that you have this Fusion Gate and this Chain Material, and with Fusion Gate, you don't have to use Polymerization, but all the cards are banished, and with Chain Material, all the cards from... You can Fusion Summon, but you can use cards from your deck, hand, and graveyard. So basically, with this, you can summon a Fusion monster from anywhere, and all you have to do is banish it afterwards, except you can't really use your banished monsters. So, the whole idea being you use Cyber Valley and Hinotama Soul, and you Fusion Summon them and summon this Blaze Phoenix, the Burning Bombardment Bird, and its effect is once per turn during your main phase. You can inflict 300 points of damage to your opponent for each card on the field. So that's a good, let's say, I don't know, 2,000 points of damage depending on what turn you summon it. I guess it'd probably be a little bit less, but let's just say that. You summon that 3 times, and that's 6,000, and then you can summon Submersible Carrier Arrow Shark, and I suppose you could use its effect. Or I like to use Electrum, and then I like to shuffle all of my banished cards and then put them back in my deck. So I can do the exact same thing. I'll just use Cyber Valley and Hinotama Soul, and then just summon this Bombardment Bird and use its effect again. So I think that combo is really cool. There's Tune. I wouldn't really call that Burn. It's just basically 2 monsters attacking directly. There's Chain again. There's kind of a Magician theme. I almost used this for the character tournament that I was going to host, but is like Rapid Fire Magician, the Secret Village of Spellcasters in Royal Decree. It makes it so that each time a spell card is activated, like 400 damage to your opponent, and the Secret Village of Spellcasters makes it so, unless your opponent controls a spellcaster, they can't activate any spell cards. And the Royal Decree obviously means that neither player can activate any trap cards, or their effects won't be activated, but, you know, it can be activated. So basically the whole idea being that you just burn your opponent with all these spell cards that lets you summon all these monsters, and, you know, a whole bunch of different combos that you can make. Let's see, there's Cure Burn. I used to run this. The whole idea of this is Fire Princess, and each time you gain life points, inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent. So normally I run, let's see here, I run Solemn Wishes. That's weird, it's not in this one. Normally I run Solemn Wishes in my deck, and every time I draw I gain 500 points. So normally when I summon my card D, or I draw during my turn, then I immediately gain, or with Morphine Jar, sorry, I immediately gain 500 points, and then I inflict more damage from my opponent. So there's that. There's also, with the Cure Burn, Marie the Fallen One in this card's effect. As long as this card stays in the graveyard, you gain 200 life points during each of your standby phases. So that can be a plus. I know Rebecca Hawkins used that in the anime, Marie the Fallen One and Fire Princess. But yeah, honestly, that's it. Otherwise, but like I said, there are plenty of other combos that you can create with a burn deck. Like I said earlier, I have other combos like my Watt Burn. I find that kind of different. I'm sure I found other cards, but on my other account that I've had other decks with, but I'm just too lazy to copy over. But yeah, there's plenty of other things that you can do with a burn deck. Some disadvantages to this, like I said, the spell and trap card destruction, but the main thing is a monster called Prime Material Dragon. This card's effect being that any effect that would inflict damage to a player increase their life points by the amount instead. During either player's turn, when a spell, trap, / spell or trap card effect or effect monster's effect is activated that would destroy a monster on the field, you can send one card from your hand to your graveyard and negate the activation and destroy it. This is you only have to tribute one monster for this, and it's a 2400 beat stick. So, as you can imagine, this card would be kind of a very big risk. That's why you see this card sided a lot, and a lot of people wonder why. And this is why for burn decks. However, I've seen this strategy as well: Prime Material Dragon versus Bad Reaction Samochi. I've seen people side Bad Reaction Samochi in like a normal burn deck, like Chain Burn. It'd stand in the field and kind of cripple you a bit, but it would make it so you'd actually inflict damage to your opponent and not like have them up to like 100,000 or something. Which actually has happened to me. Just ask Droid, just ask Droid or someone. It's actually happened to us before. But really with the burn deck you also need some heavy stall cards. Some examples of stall cards are like Gravity Bind. That one's the major one. There's also Level Limit Area B. That one's really good. It basically does the same thing as Gravity Bind, except it puts all the monsters with level 4 or higher into defense position. There's Messenger of Peace, which is the main one. Messenger of Peace, like I said, except you have to pay 100 life points per turn, but that really shouldn't be that hard to overcome if you have something like Solemn Wishes or something like that. There's other cards like Swords of Revealing Light. I never really see anyone using that at all, actually. Everyone was making a big deal out of it becoming the 3, but really, I don't really see anyone actually using all 3 of them. But there's a few other stall cards at the bottom. I think I saw some other ones. There's Red Screen, Wall of Revealing Light, Nightmare Steel Cage, which is basically just a worse Swords of Revealing Light. And even Mirror Wall will work. But, yeah. So there are plenty of other stall cards, and really that's the main thing with the burn deck. But hey guys, thanks for watching. I'm gonna put a link to the Academy down in the bottom bar, like I normally do. But anyway, if you want to watch a video of a burn deck, I'll also put the link to that I dueled someone on Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro. So yeah, thanks guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I kind of hope that you try a burn deck out. I feel like it gets a little too much criticism as being cheap and overrated, when really it's basically one of the main 7 things that someone needs to master when they're building a deck, and I don't feel like enough people are doing that. So, yeah. See you guys later.